Well, hello everybody. It's just gone 2 o'clock, so I'm happy to kick us off. So on behalf of the Australasian College for Road Safety's Local Government Network, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the July Showcase webinar for today. If you're joining us for your first LGN event, a very warm welcome, and I extend that warm welcome to our presenters and our regular members that are on the call today as well. For those that don't know me, my name is Melanie Suter and I'm the chair of the Local Government Network, and in my day job I'm the Road Safety Officer for Parks, Forbes and Lachlan Shire Councils, and we're located right in the middle of New South Wales. So I've got a little bit of housekeeping to get through before we get to our three presenters for today, so please bear with me for the next couple of minutes. Kicking off with an acknowledgement of country. So we acknowledge and pay our respects to the many First Nations of Australia who continue to be the sovereign custodians of their countries and the sovereignty of the Maori in New Zealand. We acknowledge the ongoing traditional custodians of the land on which we live, work and learn, and pay our respects to elders who have passed on the legacy of knowledge and culture to the future generations. May the sharing of knowledge through Matarunga Maori and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ways of knowing, being and doing guide you with wisdom and courage as it enhances our collective futures. Next slide. So I just wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit more about what the Local Government Network is all about, if this is your first LGN event. So the Local Government Network are all members of the Australasian College for Road Safety who want to look at road safety through a local government lens. So primarily most of our members are local government road safety practitioners who are working directly for local government, but we also have a number of members who are working with organisations that have an interest in what local government's doing in that road safety space. So there might be consultants or state road authorities. We meet monthly with an event like this, be it a webinar or an open mic session. So it's usually at this time of the month. So it's the second Wednesday at 2 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time if you want to put that placeholder in your calendar so you know that it's coming up. But really the network exists so that we offer opportunities for our members to connect with people and with ideas that they may not have otherwise encountered in their business as usual day-to-day life at council. We're very much about celebrating and sharing the successes that we've had, and today, just like our other showcase webinars, we're showing you three really great road safety stories from across Australia and New Zealand. Next slide, thanks. So in terms of housekeeping, we're going to be running for 60 minutes. The webinar is being recorded, and in about a week's time, you'll be able to see it in the members area of the ACRS website. Like all our other webinars, questions are going to happen at the end of the webinar. So if you do have a question, if we just jump to the next slide, thanks, Brett. So if you do have a question and you don't play in Zoom very often, I've got a screen grab there to show you how to find it. So there's a little Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. That's where you type your question. If you've got more general comments, you put those in the chat. I'll be keeping my eye on both of those as we go. So at the end, we'll work through as many of those Q&As as we can with our presenters. If you would like to chat to our presenters offline, they have said they're happy for you to reach out to them after today's event. So they'll be popping their email address in the chat for you to pick up if you want to chat to them afterwards. Next slide, thanks. Great, that's it from me. I don't have to say any more stuff. I've done my housekeeping. So welcome to our webinar. So thank you to our three presenters who are here to share their road safety stories today. Stuart from TAC, Alison from Cessnock Council in New South Wales, and Chris from Safe Mobility. I will give you a proper introduction as we get to your intro slides. So next slide. Yep, great. So our first presenter is Stuart Outhred from TAC in Victoria. He's the manager of LGA Capability and Development, and Stuart's presentation is going to talk us through what TAC have been doing to support local governments in Victoria. So Stuart, I'll hand over to you.
Great, thank you, Mel. Thanks to the college for having us along. Hopefully this is useful. I am going to give you a really quick update on a couple of things that TAC are progressing that are sort of LGA facing. So I think, Brett, if you're driving, I'll just give you the nod to click through as we go. Yes, thank you. I'd just quickly like to acknowledge the Kurnai people of the Eastern Gippsland region where I'm calling in from today, paying our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extending that to any Aboriginal Torres Strait Island people here today on the call. Thanks, Brett. So yeah, for today, just really quick setting the scene of some of the trauma we're seeing on the network to date, and then two program profiles for you, just to zoom in on our Safe Local Roads and Streets program and our local government grants. Thank you, Brett. Yeah, this is always quite sobering, actually, to begin with some of these statistics. So really just putting these here just to frame the session, I guess. Unfortunately, since I pressed print on this screen, which was Friday, these numbers have increased again. So we've lost a further 9 lives across the network in the last 5 days. And so the headline here is that the trend is not going the way we want it to. So much more work is needed. Next click. Thank you. And just to sort of round out the state of play, if you like, I just wanted to give a bit of prominence, I guess, to the insight comes out of this work. If you just Google Road Safety Monitor, you'll be able to find it's kind of a year-on-year data set. And some of the things we're seeing here relate to behaviours on the network. So seatbelt wearing, pretty concerning. We're starting to see that a high proportion of people are reporting not wearing a seatbelt, especially younger people, especially in regions. Fatigue, we know fatigue's a problem. So quite staggering that one in suggesting that they drove even though they struggled to keep their eyes open. And mobile phone use, of course, remains a concern, as does speeding, intentional speeding. So 1 in 4 intentionally driving over 10 k's an hour. So just encourage practitioners to use this data for whatever you're doing. It's quite impactful, I find, especially when dealing with councillors or elected members or even just the community. Next one. Thank you, Brett. Okay, I'll be fairly rapid getting through this. This is one of our big programs that the TAC is running in partnership with the Department of Transport down here in Victoria. So, yeah, click through. Thanks, Brett. Yes, so big partnership, $210 million investment. The headline is that every council gets $2 million. That's kind of that's the deal. There is additional money on top of that for innovative projects, and we are building in capability within the local government sector as part of the work we're doing. So I think the next slide might show a bit of why we're doing it. So as we know, the local road network makes up a huge proportion of the total network, and 40% of TAC injury claim costs are coming from that network or crashes on that network. We know that there have been limited funds for councils to do good things in the past. So this is kind of addressing that, let's call it a shortfall over historical years, and really responding to feedback. So building more support and resources and skills, making data more available, and it's kind of proactive funding. So we're not sort of chasing black spots here, but we're trying to reduce risk on the network. So it's quite unique in that sense. Next one, Brett. Okay, so I think Chris Hall might be on the call, one of my colleagues who's managing a huge amount of this, sort of meeting with every council in the state, sort of in batches, so 10 or 12 at a time, to get them into the program, thinking about what they could do, and then submitting applications, having those funding agreements established, and then works hitting the ground in a fairly rapid time frame, which is part of the reason that this is such an impressive program, I think. You can see a 2-year time frame is pretty quick to spend this sort of money. some development support for councils that's thrown in. So we're not just assuming that councils can resource them fully themselves. We are sort of supporting that concept and design development. And yeah, everything safe system compliant. That's kind of that's the broad parameter that you need to fall within to get these programs across the line. Next one, Brett. Okay, so to date, this has been running for like 18 months. Chris might be able to correct me on that, but every council's been engaged. Lots approved already, and a huge number of wombat crossings, and a really impressive amount of speed limit reduction. I think it's around 270-ish kilometres on the rural network speed reduction, and the rest is kind of urban settings. So really good stuff that we're starting to see land, and yeah, the fruits of that will come in years to come, which is excellent. Next one. Okay, so I kind of am helping roll out some of the capability building activities as part of this program. But broadly, we've got these 3 buckets of work that are trying to improve capability and capacity. So we've built a whole heap of tools with the Department of Transport to sort of help practitioners identify projects or identify problems on their network. And we've thrown a fair bit of support at enabling the approvals of these projects and just to sort of help run the program. And we're also funding this skills package, which I'll talk more about in a moment. So you can sort of see how these 3 things hang together to support capability into the long term. Next one. There's a really quick and fairly poor quality, apologies, screenshot of some of the tools that we've developed. So these are for council practitioners to use to find problems or to just understand what's going on in their networks, and then fill those gaps with good projects. Next one. Yes, so some of the skills package stuff we've initiated so far. Well, aside from just having a workshop with every council in the state, that's pretty foundational and very important work that's happened. We've rolled out a few bespoke training opportunities. So a safe system for local government short course, an active transport masterclass, and we've got a couple more things coming over the next year, probably 2 years, which is we're going to zoom in on comms and engagement and skills that are really beneficial for these projects in that space. We're going to roll out some councillor briefing opportunities. Councillors are a pretty important decision-making frame for a lot of these things. So we would love them to be safe system knowledgeable and leading would be ideal. And just sort of planting a seed that we are looking at a conference of sorts next year, so next calendar year, which is a bit exciting. Next one, Brett. Oh, just a few photos. So our safe system for local government course, very well attended. Sort of got out of the city, got into the regions, lots of demand. We might look at running more of this in the future. We'll see how this year plays out. And the next one looks at our active transport masterclass. Again, lots of demand, really well attended, quite appreciative councils that were involved. So hopefully more of this on the radar in future. Okay, just really quickly, I don't know if I'm going for time, but I'll tell you a little bit about our grants, our local government grant program. And I'm doing this today because it's still open. They're still open. So for any Victorian Council people on the call, yeah, go and find out more about this, because you should be putting in for a grant for quite a few different opportunities. You've got, what have you got? 2 more weeks. So the focus of these, I think for the last year or 2, has been pedestrian and cycling safety and this kind of road planning and prioritisation stuff. So the next slide might show you a bit of a breakdown on what you can apply for. Yes, so quite a few different things. So on the far left there, you can see grants available for sort of strategy development. And we're seeing a lot of these can be quite different. They could be a really broad road safety strategy for a council area, or they could be for specific things like an active transport strategy or something of the like. Analysis grants, these are kind of the upstream sort of problem identification, or sort of doing a deep dive on a particular intersection or corridor or a topic that can then inform concept design or inform more full thinking on a project. Infrastructure grants, these are, I don't know if the grants team here today, but these look like wombat crossings. Like these fund a lot of wombat crossings, which are great. We love seeing them rolled out across the network. But they're, for that funding envelope, $100,000, you can't do a huge amount, but you can fill holes in your network. So very useful. And then there's this VMS opportunity as well, which is good. Next one. Some pre-app support for these grants. So again, we don't just drop people in the deep end and say, figure it out. You can get on a call and find out a bit more about these if you'd like. There's the grants email address. You can also find that online if you look up these grants. This one. Yeah, just a couple of project snapshots. So Fisher Street in Torquay, really impressive project. Not all funded through this grant program, but I believe an analysis grant was sort of one of those early pieces of work that came from one of our grants that led to a big funding agreement. I think it was a federal funding that came through for this section. And the Light Insight trial, which if you don't know about that, it's worth Googling, where these little bike lights record a huge amount of data relating to sort of close passing of cars or crashes or near misses or harsh braking events. So a lot of that data was able to inform the project design, which is quite a nice, it's a nice loop, nice little ecosystem of things going on here, this project. The next one, as I said, with this grants program's funding a lot of this sort of stuff. So if you're in Victoria and you think, oh, I'd love to get that wombat crossing up and I didn't manage to get it in the Safe Local Roads and Streets package, look at this grant as an opportunity to do that. Yeah, very beneficial things to do. So I think I'll pass back over to, yes, I will. I'll pass back to Mel. Any questions? Very happy to go down rabbit holes as you would like.
Awesome. Thank you, Stuart. And Stuart will pop that email address in the chat for you guys if you want to have a chat offline. But if you do have a question, and I can see that there's a few popping up in the Q&A at the moment, that's great. So thanks, Stuart. Great work being done in Victoria. Let's move on to our second presenter. It's my pleasure to welcome Alison Shelton. Alison's the Road Safety Officer for Cessnock City Council in the Hunter region of New South Wales. And today Alison's going to be talking to us about a motorcycle program that hits all of the safe system pillars. So Al, I'll pass over to you.
Thanks, Mel. Today I'm presenting on the traditional land of the Wanneroo Nation, which also includes the Darkinjung and Wobble lands, and acknowledge the traditional custodians of these lands today. Safer motorcycle routes is a safe systems approach to reducing the incidence and severity of motorcycle crashes on recreational routes in the Hunter region, and is a joint project for the councils of the Hunter. Next slide, please, Brett. So if those not familiar with New South Wales, the Hunter region is situated north of Sydney and is one of the 3 precincts for the Transport for New South Wales North region, which extends from the Central Coast in Gosford to the Queensland border and encompasses the New England area as well. The councils partnering on this project included Cessnock, Dungog, Maitland, Mid Coast, Muswellbrook, Port Stephens, Singleton and Upper Hunter councils. Newcastle and Lake Macquarie councils do not have a road safety officer, but they've been included in some elements of this project. Next slide. So as you can see from this map, the Hunter councils are connected by state, regional and local road networks. All of these areas are very popular for recreational motorcycle riding, largely due to the tourist trip generators, the coastal holiday areas of Port Stephens and Mid-Coast, the national park areas of Singleton, Mid-Coast, Upper Hunter, Dungog and Cessnock, historical preservation areas of Maitland, and the wineries of the Cessnock region. It's a short day or a short break weekend. The area is popular for Sydney and local residents alike. Next slide. So it's a great day out on the bike. The rural picturesque winding road network is particularly enticing for motorcycle riders. The aerial on the left highlights just one section of road in the Cessnock LGA, with the crash map on the right, the 5 years 2019 to 23 motorcycle crashes only on the same length of road. So as you can see, we have a significant crash risk on these rural roads. Next slide. So in the 5 years of 2019 to 23, the Hunter precinct experienced 1,564 crashes with motorcycle involvement. North region is the second highest region outside Greater Sydney for crashes with motorcycle involvement. And across the Hunter and Central Coast councils, 11.6% of all our crashes involved motorcycles. The highest age group risk is the controllers that are aged between 50 and 59 years. Risk-taking behaviour, kids off their hands, that age group is what we commonly term in our area as the rusty bums. They haven't ridden for a while and then they're returning to riding thinking they've still got the skills of a 25-year-old. 85% of our injuries are male and 52% are single motorcycle, which indicates rider error and largely speed related as a factor. The crash types are off-road on curve and off-road on straight number 2, so high rider error involvement. Next slide. So we've approached this project in a cross-council partnership with a safe system focus. Safe roads, safe speed, safe people, safe vehicles. I don't need to explain that to this audience. Next slide. So a key focus for us was to work with riders and other partners across the pillars of the safe systems. We work with riders to conduct road audits of major recreational riding routes with a crash history, taking in the perspective of the rider, having them ride the sections of a road with a helmet camera, and led by road safety officers, we included traffic engineers, design engineers, police highway patrol officers, and Transport for New South Wales technical experts. This resulted in a series of recommendations that fed into both minor and major works conducted by all the councils over a number of years, both externally funded through grants and also minor works through capital funding within our councils. One of the major issues of these routes is the significant mobile reception black spots and also the distance from emergency response when an incident does occur. Next slide. So works have included additional signage, some with constant wig-wag solar panel lights, some with vehicle activated messaging for upcoming series of bends. You can see from these photos that from an engineering perspective, these routes can be challenging road environments. They're very constrained with edge of road drop-offs and sandstone cliff faces. This is consistent along many of the routes audited. They are hard roads to treat where there's no width to play with. Without property acquisitions and major excavation works worth a lot of money. All whilst dealing with environmental, convict heritage. This particular example is part of the convict trail out of Sydney and has convict relics, and also Indigenous cultural significance. This area also has some significant Indigenous paintings and rock carvings. For the riders, the existing environment including the rural nature of the road, is a major attractor for them coming through these locations. Next slide. Enhanced signage has also been used with red backing boards, particularly for hairpin bends, diamond grade chevrons around corners, and motorcycle underrun guardrail, as well as line marking delineation. Next slide. Where we have been able, major works have been undertaken to widen roads, create clear zones or barrier hazards. Realignment works in the Cessnock LGA at Lemming Corner, which is the image on the left, so named for all the motorcycle crashes where they ended up jumping over the embankment like lemmings. And widening works on Maitland Vale Road is the image on the right. Without safe state and federal supported funding, the local councils can't achieve the remedial treatments through their general funds capital works spend. Next slide. So unfortunately, largely due to the motorcycle crashes, the councils have been ongoing in their success for state and federal black spot funding for treatments, such as the barriers with underrun, the chevrons, the shoulder widening where achievable, and the vehicle activated signage supplementing static signage. You can appreciate by the tree-lined nature of the roads that sun charge to solar panels can be problematic and a determining factor where this emerging technology can be utilised. Next slide. So one of the concerns picked up through our audits was correct advance warning signage, whether it was a multiple curve warning indicating a series of upcoming bends, or in an incorrect direction, or a warning sign that, like this one, that indicated a straight road with an intersecting road to the right, where in fact it's a curved road with an intersecting road to the right. Signage was not often as clear as it would be for the road user. Next slide. We have a lot of rural bridges. Some have been upgraded to concrete decking, others are timber decking. One of the concerns raised for one of our concrete bridge deckings was the slippery centre where the join is. So we've put some anti-skid treatments retrofitted on some of these identified bridges on the motorcycle routes. And we've also included slippery signage where causeways may exist on some of the locations. Next slide. On many rural roads, there's little opportunity to safely exit the travel lane for multiple purposes, whether that's taking a phone call, changing a tyre, having a fatigue break, or for the police to safely conduct enforcement activities. We worked with our police partners to identify some key locations where we could safely accommodate multi-purpose bays. We further encouraged our councils to include the sealing of rural vehicle access crossings to the property boundary in areas of road rehabilitation and construction works. This also assists for breakdowns and a secondary benefit for rural school bus pickups. We also have worked collaboratively with Transport for New South Wales on speed zone assessments to reduce speed limits in some of our more prevalent crash routes. In New South Wales, Transport for New South Wales is the only agency that can assess and change speed limits on our road networks. Next slide. Through the local government road safety program, road safety officers secured funding for gateway and route signage on key routes with crash history. This was also installed by Transport for New South Wales on some roads outside the partner LGAs that also form part of the identified recreational riding routes. This signage is a consistent visual cue for riders throughout the entire Hunter region. Next slide. We've used fixed message boards with motorcycle-specific road safety messaging installed at key points leading into bends or crash cluster locations. Next slide. We've worked with rider groups to consult with them on issues faced by riders, proposed road treatments that we were planning on motorcycle routes, and developing ongoing partnerships. We've completed multiple surveys, focus groups and activations, and have generated a significant amount of data on rider attitudes and concerns. Consultations provided with us are used to inform and tailor education programs delivering to rider concerns. Next slide. An example of this is the Joe Rider campaign. Our riders indicated that most of the road safety campaigning is centred on rider responsibility. Riders indicated concern for their safety in urban areas where drivers don't look for the bikes, changing lanes, pulling out from curb or exiting driveways, right turn across traffic and roundabout give ways, or U-turn crashes. This led to the Hunter Councils running the ACT, Motorcycle Riders Association initiated program to spot Joe Rider. The campaign involved working with volunteer riders wearing high-vis vests and having the public to spot them riding around to enter a competition to win prizes. Support from riders, police and the community was very positive, with this program successfully running for 3 consecutive years in the Hunter during Motorcycle Awareness Month, which is October every year in New South Wales. Next slide. RSOs are partners also with the Survive the Ride Association, provide a series of rider refresher education workshops, and even seasoned riders have stated in their evaluations that they had learnt a lot and would reconsider some of their less safe riding habits. These workshops are also an opportunity to provide information regarding the new motorcap riding gear rating system to riders. Next slide. We partner with community activations to provide motorcycle safety information. The annual Newcastle Christmas Biker Toy Run has facilitated road safety engagement with thousands of riders over our 7-year involvement. With 3,000 to 5,000 riders attending every year, it is our major annual community engagement activity for motorcyclists. And the Australian Postie Grand Prix is a closed motorcycle race held annually in Cessnock on Road, and this has also provided a major engagement opportunity. Multiple of these types of activations have been held, with the partnering councils joining cross-border and working together in the area. Next slide. We have a number of motorcycle information boards at popular rest areas, which are pubs and clubs along our riding routes, and we update this information regularly. Next slide. A number of years ago, Port Stephens Council ran some bus back advertising to also alert drivers to look out for motorcyclists. Next slide. Since 2002, the Hunter Council have been publishing the Motorcycle the Hunter brochure. 3 versions in 2002, 17 and 22 have been published with a number of reprints. These have proved very popular with the riding fraternity. They have extensive maps, which meant that the riders hold on to them. We worked with rider groups and the Motorcycle Council of New South Wales in development of all of these versions. If you'd like to have a look at that, I'll publish the link in the chat so you can have a look at that online at one of our council websites. Companion brochure has recently been launched for the New England area, and also there's Motorcycling the Southern Way for riding in the Southern Highlands, which was last published in 2010 as well. In 2013, next slide, we were recognised with the National Award for Excellence in Local Government for the early stage works of this project, particularly the work we did with the riders collaborating in road safety audits. We were also the national winner for that year. We've continued to work, expanding as new people come in and out of the Hunter team, adding new strategies and programs as we continue to work towards reducing motorcycle crashes on our roads. Next slide. Unfortunately, we still have some work to do. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Alison. There is a few questions for you there in the Q&A, but if you've got one after listening to all of that, please pop it in the Q&A. Thank you, that was great. Let's move on. Our final presenter for today is Chris Urwitz, who's the Principal Transport Safety Engineer with Safe Mobility. He's going to talk about connected vehicle technology. So Chris, I will hand over to you. You're just on mute, Chris.
That should make all the difference. Lovely. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I guess I'm providing a bit more technical input today for all of our local government colleagues. So I wanted to talk a little bit about something that we do in our work quite a bit. We use it, and I really think that it's something that can be very, very useful to local government. I spent 4 years up in Queensland on the Sunshine Coast managing a traffic and transport unit, and yeah, sort of this really resonates well with those experiences. Okay, so connected vehicle data. Let's move to the next slide. So managing traffic and transport at local government is a daunting task. There's a lot in there. There's safety, of course. There's mobility. There's access, amenity, environment. There's driver behavior issues. I'm sure you get a lot of complaints about that. One of the sort of big problems is the data, is knowing what is happening on your network. And typically, the data problem is, well, it's limited to where you collected it in the past, and collecting costs a lot of money that you may or may not have. Usually don't have the money. Next one, Brett. The conventional source, which many of you may be familiar with, is the good old tube counts that you've seen on one of the photos in the previous presentation. And yes, you can put them out for a couple of weeks, and that will cost you anything, usually more than $300 is the going rate. It can be up to $1,500 if you're far away from the city. The emerging kind of technology is video and artificial intelligence. That's fairly costly, but it can really give you a lot of data. Again, where you put it, where you put the camera, and that's where you can measure things with quite a degree of sophistication. What I would like to talk about is the connected vehicle data, which is maybe some of you already have experimented or are using it actively. And that's basically a whole new kind of game when it comes to traffic and transport data. These sources, by the way, are not comparable. They're all informed decisions, and they all have limitations. So we'll get through that today. There's some really good kind of conversation pieces around this subject. So, for example, is there a ground truth for any traffic and transport data, or is it just acceptable compromise? Tubes are certainly not perfect. They have lots of technical limitations. It's just we all seem to be comfortable with it. We accepted those limitations. I love this one. It came from another practitioner. Do you want 100% of the traffic for 2% of the time, which is what you get with tubes? Or would you like 2% of traffic 100% of the time, which is what you get with connected vehicle data? These are the little kind of pivots, mental pivots that we kind of like to play with. Next one, Brett. So what is CV data, the connected vehicle? So basically, most vehicles and people inside them are connected to the internet, and they're broadcasting their position to the satellites. That of course is collected by data companies and de-identified. So one of the things keeps coming up, or government spying on me, or the companies are spying. Yeah, but generally no. I mean, definitely no. They are not spying on anyone. They're just collecting anonymous data and they aggregating it immediately. There are some very strong legal requirements on these companies, and it's an existential threat to them to not comply. So they do comply. I've seen this in practice. Quite brutal. They just cut things off at the source. They can't go back and find out who was where. So it's very much anonymized and aggregated. So it's been around for about 10 years, and people in sort of transport management, in arterial traffic management, have been using it quite a bit. Next, please. Some common data sources. I'll start with Google because that's an interesting one. Is claimed to have the highest penetration out there. Notoriously difficult to engage with, and we don't know what it costs. So if you have succeeded using Google's data, then please let me know. I'd love to have a chat and repeat your success. I haven't heard of anyone yet. I'll talk a little bit about Compass IoT, which is a relative newcomer, and you might have actually heard from them. They reach out to local government quite a bit and promote themselves. And the two big players are Here and TomTom. These are navigation companies that use multiple data sources, and I'll come back to that bit. So let's see what they've got. Brett? One of the questions that keeps coming up is this data collected from these probe vehicles, is it representative of what is happening in the traffic? And there are already some myths out there that are worth dispelling. Generally speaking, the multiple source data providers, yep, they're quite representative. This is an example that's nearly 4 years old, from Maribyrnong Council in Melbourne. They were sort of sitting between 5 and 20% of the traffic that was being picked up in the probes in the connected vehicle. So a lot of the data I'm working with now is sitting around 30%. So I think that's a pretty good sample. It obviously is not counting every vehicle. That's not the point. It's about sampling. Next one, please. Okay, let's go through a few things that you can actually get from connected vehicle data. So traffic intensity, here's a map of Mornington Peninsula Shire, and you can see the traffic intensity. It's not traffic volumes. You can go the extra step if you want to. You can calibrate your council and get that. But this is simply traffic intensity. That's what it's a sample. Over a period of time, relative traffic flow across the network, and you can straight away see that the major roads, the government roads, are all nice and red, and the local streets are all like yellow. They get hardly any traffic. So it's pretty much tells you what you already know, but yeah, it's a useful tool. Next one, please. Speeds. Now, this used to be a holy grail, something that we didn't know, but now we do. So you can actually get a map of traffic speeds across your whole network and identify any kind of hotspots if you want. This is quite good. Next one, Brett. With the speed, I do a lot of speed management research and policy work and also some consulting on that. And it's a really good way to look at connected vehicle data and speeds as using two different rulers. So with your tube counters, that's one type of ruler, but it's always pros and cons. And we just have a different ruler using connected vehicle data. They're not comparable, although similar. But just simply taking one and swapping it for the other is not beneficial, can be quite confusing. When we have a little bit of time and resources, we can do these kind of calibration relationships and then translate from one to the other seamlessly. And that's been done quite a bit, particularly when the client wants to really kind of communicate back to designers and to the councillors who in the values that they will understand, that they're used to. Next one. Okay, some practical uses. Right, the traffic engineers out there will know the complaint comes in, they're hooning in my street, the traffic around the corner is just terrible. This was a real case from Maribyrnong. A colleague of mine called me up and had this on his desk. So I was able to use TomTom. This is the tool that I use probably the most, and extract the 85th percentile around this particular corner. And yeah, it was pretty healthy, pretty normal. It doesn't really doesn't negate the complaint. It just enables you to monitor the majority of traffic that is quite what you would expect. Okay, next one. Okay, alrighty, this is quite a recent one. Mornington Peninsula Shire has installed some rural runabouts, compact ones, really brave and really good project. and they had a problem intersection. There was a black spot, and so they put these small roundabouts in. So the question was, are they effective? So very quickly we can simply do that interrogation and get the speeds. In this case, the entry speeds here are about 40 kilometers per hour. Because this was a study that allowed us to spend a bit of time, there was a calibration done, and speaking in tube counter language, this is 32 kilometers per hour. So exactly what you would expect if you go into Australia's guidelines, you'd actually, that's pretty good actually. That's excellent. All right, next one. As an example, using here data, and this is a school crossing. The funding actually from the TAC funding that was in the first presentation. That was basically to upgrade this to a wombat with a zebra, and we're able to just interrogate the speeds across time. So you got a construction period in the middle, and before and after, really clear marked improvement in safety. Now you can actually translate this to reduced risk of impacts into pedestrians and risk of serious injury. So it's fabulous, very useful tool. Next, please. Okay, scaling up to a whole street level, there's a whole traffic calming scheme where a number of platforms were put in at the red dots. As you can see, the before speeds are sitting above 50 kilometers per hour. There's a collector road, so it's a bit faster. And then after the traffic calming, they're all sitting under 50 kilometers per hour. And where you have these platforms, the speeds are even lower. So it's a real good way to communicate with the councillors. Now, in this case, we did some science, and we're able to, look at the actual change in speed and if it was statistically significant. So this source enables this sort of analysis. Next, please. Mobility-oriented sort of analysis. So intersection analysis, you can look at delay, queuing, things like that. And this is in real time. You just set it up, it watches, and it reports. Origin destination studies as well. This is important in transport planning. Next, please. Compass IoT, that's a relative newcomer, and these guys use eSIM data from new vehicles. So last few years we have cars that communicate. They give you very rich output. So hash braking, speeds with like good resolution. As you can see, the graph here is really quite nice. Cornering, G-forces, near misses, stops, things like that. It has limitations, very low representation, sort of under 1%, long collection period. So if you collect very small percentage of cars, you need a long time to wait. And also the license agreements are very much one way or the highway. So but they love working with local government, and I'm sure you've heard from them. Next, please. Right, what are the considerations? So access to the data, it varies by provider. TomTom is scalable, pay as you go. That's the one I use the most. It's sort of, if I just dive in to get something, it's about $5. It's very, very cost effective. But you can also scale up and get the data for the whole council if you want. The data is not ideal for point measurement. So if you want to know speed at the top of the speed hump, go and get some tubes out. But that's improving. So we might get there soon. Poor vehicle classification. Again, you probably need conventional methods for that. You really don't get that very well. And communicating some of this information back to other professionals who are used to tube language, that conventional way, may take a little bit more effort, and maybe some, fact sheets and things like that. Okay. And what will be the next steps? Well, you can access this, test, and decide. I don't sell any of this data, but I can connect you with the people who do. So play with it, familiarize yourself, develop proficiency, start getting the benefits, just using it, and then innovate new use cases. And that's the wonderful thing with technology. You can always try something new. Okay, that's my details. Happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. That was great. And there is a comment in the chat from Edward saying that all local governments in WA have access to Compass IoT that's funded by the state government. That's great.
That's great.
Excellent. So let's bring all of our presenters back online. So there are a few questions, and I can see some of you have been quite busy answering them live, which is great too. I'm going to ask my question first. So mine's for Stuart. I just wanted to know a bit more about the road safety monitoring. So is that something that happens every year? How does that work? Obviously, we don't do that in New South Wales. So I'm just keen to know how that attitudinal data is collected.
Yeah. I'll drop a link into the chat, and you can knock yourself out with all the details. But I believe it's annual, really good sample size. So it's all it's just very good qual and quant data, and you can just use it to underpin a lot of project work. I'll drop it in so you can actually explore it yourself. But
Wonderful.
you should absolutely ask your state authority to do the same thing.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm going to just work my way through the list. Kristen, I can see you typing to this, but I'm going to ask it live as well.
Okay.
So Will's wondering about regional councils. What access do they have if some of these vehicles don't have that connected data technology?
Yeah, I could imagine this being the Compass IoT, particularly in WA, which generally has fairly low traffic volumes anyway. Look, with TomTom and Here data, that's less of a problem because they have much higher proportion. What you tend to do is to set a longer period, call it interrogation period. You say, give me data for the last 3 months, not last 3 weeks. That's probably the only offset. You accrue the sample size. It's important to have enough in there, and I've done enough statistical analysis with this data to know that, if you have like more than a few hundred, it should be okay.
Great, thank you. Alison, you've got a few, and I can see you've answered them, but I'm going to ask them. So let's just go through the list. So were the safety barriers extended past the point of needs to suit the curve start and finishes to better suit motorcycle rider traits?
Yes, they've been fully designed by our road designers, fully funded by state and federal black spot money. Generally, we do a length of road where we've got crash data, and we have a start point and an end point that's outside that crash cluster. So we target the section of road. So most of our sections are around 800 to 1.5 k's in length with the treatments.
Yep, awesome. How do you identify the locations that you focus on for the infrastructure upgrades?
So again, it's crash clusters. The Australian and the New South Wales federal black spot funding is based on crash data. We can get 100% funding, and for a rural council, regional council, a lot of the other funding streams require a percentage, and it's often up to 50% funding co-funded by council, which we just don't have the capital funds to do that. So we do rely on crash data predominantly for these kind of treatments.
Right. And then the last one is also for you, which was about the warning signs on slide 45. They were the gateway signs with the motorcyclist leaning in different directions.
So the gateway signs are at the beginning of a length. So they can be 15 to 30 kilometres. I think the longest one's about 45 kilometres long. We have a gateway at each end, and we have repeater signage throughout the lengths prior to crash cluster or series of bends. The question was, they look different in terms of the motorcycle rider leaning left and leaning right, and that is deliberate. They are placed in that position on the approach to a right bend or a left bend so that we're reflecting the road conditions.
Great, thanks, Al. Back to you, Stuart. Phil said was hard to, I don't know you've answered it, but Phil said it was hard to see on the slides, but is the corridor intersection risk tool available for councils to have a look at?
Yeah, certainly available for councils. That's the whole point of creating them, is to sort of fast track how councils comprehend their network. More broadly, I'll try and find out how widely we can share that stuff. I think our colleagues, our partners at the Department of Transport are sort of on top of that. But Phil, I'll let you know, because I'm guessing you've got sort of an advocacy lens on that, which is very valid. So let me chase that up for you.
Yep. And then Brett, yours was more of a comment, but I think it's kind of a question too. Have TAC undertaken assessments of every LG road in Victoria using the IRR tool?
It's more in response to Adam's comment as well.
Okay,
or question.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which was about the understanding level of speeding and how it might affect other road safety assessment tools like OSRAP and road safety audits. Is that
Yes, DTP have sort of undertaken that work. So yes, LGAs have got that sort of intel and that insight that they can sort of bake into their programs. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so we've only got 4 minutes left. No more questions. So I'm just going to throw it back to the presenters. You get this is your elevator pitch, take home message for those on the line. After watching your presentation, what do you want them to know? Stuart, you can go first.
Well, thanks for the heads up. Well, from the TAC's perspective, I'd say get organised with what you're doing at council, so that when funding does become available, you're kind of on the front foot and you can make the most of the opportunity and sort of step through the door when it opens. So whether that's all the upstream work of getting your road safety strategy organised, getting your council on board, getting them speaking the right language, so that when you do press go on an application for funding, all of that approval stuff, all that council endorsement can happen quickly. So we're noticing that through the Safe Local Roads and Streets program, that the councils that are organised and ready are a dream to work with, and that's very valuable when we report back to government on how the program's going, and then the pitch for further funding. So I know everyone's stretched and sort of time poor and scrambling with parking requests, but the more sort of assertive and sort of proactive council people can be, it helps a lot. Awesome.
Great elevator pitch. Okay, Alison, it's your go.
I think from my point of view, the eye-opener for our safer motorcycle routes was actually working with the riders. So understanding that riding a road is different to driving a road. And with our engineers and our road designers, they might not necessarily be a rider and understand the nuances of designing for that target group. It really was worthwhile to bring them into the audits, and we've established some really great partnerships with our riding groups here in the Hunter.
Great. And Chris?
Cool. What my colleague said, I'll add, you can be proactive in addressing all of these, local government safety, motorcycle safety, by getting your hands on good data, speed and traffic data, and doing more with less and easier. That's it.
Great. And that keeps us on time. That's awesome. So thank you to our presenters. Thank you to all of you on the line for joining in. I just wanted to plug our next event. So on the 13th of August is our next webinar, 2 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time, focusing on fleet safety this time. And then the September event will be an open mic session where you can ask questions of the members that turn up. So thank you very much for dialing in, and we will see you next month.